It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. Now, you could find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting. If you reach out to me through my email, oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. And if you like the show, be sure and check out our Patreon, Opperman Report Patreon. All the shows you hear Monday to Friday on AM/FM radio, you could find at our Patreon with the commercials cut out, the ads cut out. Plus, I'm always putting up there new exclusive content. There's free stuff on there, too. I just put up the Jenna Ellis plea negotiation deal that she made in her fake electors case over there in Arizona. So we have that up there as well. Every Friday night, 8 p.m., you go to Spreaker.com. I do a live show. There's a chat room. You get an email notification when we put up new content. Plus, I play repeats up there every night of the week at Spreaker.com. Tonight's show is a little bit different than most of our shows. We have a young couple named Kaylee Walker and Ian Wiley. Now, they're a young couple from Kentucky. They're living in Florida, and they were living on a sailboat in Gulfport. And remember how I was telling you about how we had the flood here in the lagoon behind my house, and it overflowed the lagoon because we had so much rain? Well, this poor young couple here, they were living on this boat. This was their home. And because of this Hurricane Debby or Tropical Storm Debby or whatever they're calling it, their boat was sunk, capsized. It came ashore. The home is destroyed. And now they're trying to navigate their way through this the system here of FEMA and local city government and all the issues that you have. Just imagine you lose your home to begin with, and now you got to deal with the city telling you, hey, you got to get this boat off our shore. Otherwise, you're going to get hit with a $25,000 fine or whatever it is. They've got a GoFundMe. It's called Donate to Help Us Rebuild After Debby Took Our Home. You go to GoFundMe, Help Us Rebuild After Debby Took Our Home, Unbridled Spirit. Unbridled Spirit is the name of the boat. So, Kaylee Walker, are you there?
Yes.
Kaylee, thank you so much for coming on the show. Before we get into the whole story here about the boat, Unbridled Spirit, and all the trouble you're having with the city and FEMA and stuff like that, tell us about yourself. Who is Kaylee Walker?
Well, I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, or at least for the most part, I did. And I had, I guess I wouldn't say the best childhood. A lot of things went on, just a lot of issues. By the time that COVID had hit, I was in my freshman year of high school, and our school completely shut down. We all went online. So I pretty much lost all of my friends. I stopped talking to people. I wasn't able to talk to anybody. And my mom was immunosuppressed, so I wasn't even seeing her. I started failing school because I didn't do very good with online work. I was more of somebody that learned in person. And so I ended up relapsing with an eating disorder that I had been dealing with since the age of 6. And by the time that my junior year came around, I got super sick, and that was right when school had just opened back up after being closed down for so long. And I got hospitalized. So I wasn't able to go back to school. I was hospitalized for weeks. And when I finally got out of the hospital, I was still too sick to go back to school. So I continued failing all my classes. By my senior year, I finally went back, and I had 27 classes to do to graduate on time. I thankfully did them, and I graduated about 4 months early before graduation. And after my graduation, I moved in with Ian to Lexington, and we decided that we wanted to move to Florida and get a sailboat. But unfortunately, I had relapsed again. I got really sick. I had to quit my job, and Ian had to be the one taking care of the rent and me, and all types of just crazy nonsense. So I finally went to treatment in January in West Palm Beach, and that was the opportunity we took to move to Florida.
And that's treatment for the eating disorder?
Yes.
Gotcha.
I was there for 7 weeks. And during that time, Ian saved up money. He moved out of the apartment, and he lived with his parents to save up what he could. When I got out of treatment, we came back to Kentucky for a little bit, saved up a couple more dollars, and we just booked it down here. We didn't have a place to live. We put all of our necessities in the car, and we lived out of our vehicle for a really long time. And then we bought our sailboat, and we worked on it for months and months from then on. And it was a lot of work, but we were super dedicated. We really wanted that life. So we kept going with it.
Now, do you have any kind of experience on this is a sailboat, right?
Yes.
Now, did you have any experience sailing or boating before you came down here to Florida and lived on this boat?
I didn't. Ian did. He knew a lot more about sailboats than what I did. And I had always, before the sailboat idea even came into my head, I never thought about that until I met Ian. And I did always want to travel, and I thought about, the camper life. And I really always loved the ocean and the beach and the water. And he kind of told me about this dream he had, and I fell in love with it, but he definitely knew more than what I did.
If you want to check out, put a face to the name Kaylee Walker, you can go on Facebook. It's Kaylee Walker, and she's a very pretty girl with a big white hat on, a pink dress here, in her profile picture. You can go there and check it out, and that's where you could find the GoFundMe link to the Help Us Rebuild After Debby Took Our Home, Unbridled Spirit. Now, living on a boat, I know people that do this. It's not an easy life, even just when the weather's good. Describe what it was like when you first went to live on this boat.
It was definitely new. I think the biggest thing getting used to was like the physical feeling of being on the water, because like when you live on land, you're not used to like randomly waking up to a big wave like throwing you across the boat, and the waves never got that bad, but it was a weird feeling at first, but I loved it. I mean, it was like our backyard was just the ocean, and it had beautiful sunrises. The maintenance wasn't easy. You had to keep up with a lot, because if you don't maintenance the boat the way that it needs to be, you'll eventually lose it. So lots of scrapings, which was, I will say, gross. Yeah. Barnacle does not smell good. But all that maintenance was worth it. We had to check on a lot of things, your through holes, scrapings, checking on the motor, making sure that that's all good. Same with the dinghies. You had to scrape your dinghy, make sure that there was no water in the motor. So it was a lot of work, but it was worth it. And I think Ian's probably better at explaining all the maintenance on the boat than me.
Well, is Ian back?
Yeah,
he's here.
Okay, so Ian Wiley, tell us about yourself. Who is Ian Wiley?
Ian Wiley is a guy who grew up in Kentucky with horse racing parents. Kentucky's the horse capital of the world. My dad was a horse trainer. My mom and dad met on the racetrack. It's actually really weird that I'm not in the horse business. I love horses to death, but I never really had the passion that my parents did for it. I saw them struggle a lot growing up with clients of horses, and the money sometimes was there, sometimes wasn't. They had the passion to really stick through all the hard times, and I saw myself doing something different. But we had always, every year we would come down to Florida for vacation, at least a week. And I just remember being a little kid sitting on the docks, just looking at all the sailboats. It was a requirement every time we came down here to go to at least a couple marinas just so I can look at the sailboats. I just always wanted to be on the water. It was my dream since a little kid. And she and hauled and pushed the idea around for a long time. And when me and Kaylee met, she really got me inspired to really drop everything I'm doing. I had a 9-to-5 job, a career that I enjoyed, but I was also really bored with the whole routine of just going to work, coming home, sitting down, watching TV. I wasn't really doing much with my life. And she kind of got me inspired to get off my butt and let's take some risk and make some changes. And so like she said, we just packed up everything and decided to come down here.
What made you choose Gulfport?
Well, we were originally we were originally planning on going down like Fort Myers area. My parents have a condo on Sanibel, which had one. Hurricane Ian wiped it out. We were going to use that as a base camp,
right,
so we could get our own place or find a boat that we liked. But since Hurricane Ian kind of demolished it, they're still rebuilding. That was an option. So we kind of drove through St. Pete, and there were several companies that were offering me a job at the time, and I immediately took one. And we saw a lot of boats around, and we were like, well, let's stop here for a while and see what this place has to offer, sailboat-wise and living-wise. And it's very expensive to live in Florida. Rent is ridiculous. So we didn't really see that as a viable option. We bought the sailboat probably 1 or 2 weeks after we got down here, and we just wanted to pour all of our money and all of our hard work into this boat. And when we bought it, it wasn't livable. It needed a lot of work. And I can't even begin to count the hours that I spent. Every day after work, go work on the boat. Every weekend, go work on the boat. All my paycheck went to materials, to buying materials to work on the boat. We gutted the whole interior, redid the floor, ceilings, walls, redid electrical, plumbing. I mean, it was a lot of work. There was a lot of rotten wood and a lot of black mold. So, yeah.
Well, then give us an idea. What's it like living on a sailboat? How do you get your groceries over there? Do you have a TV set? How do you go to the bathroom? You don't squat over the edge, right?
It's like living on land, only just a little bit harder, because you have to pack everything out on a dinghy, which is basically our small boat that had an outboard motor. Basically our water car. We would transport stuff back and forth to the big boat. And we'd load it up in the dinghy and head out there. Most of our stuff got wet on the way out there. It's like living on land, only a little bit harder. You got to think about everything a little bit more. Like, if this goes overboard, what do we do to get it? But it's worth it. Like, every morning I woke up before work, I would make a cup of coffee. I'd go sit out on the deck and watch the dolphins play off the side of the boat. Every morning I'd get up around 6 o'clock to the most beautiful sunrise every morning and it seemed like every morning just the water was glassy. There was a reflection. It was like we had 2 sunrises because of the reflection off the water. And I would get in the dinghy and head towards the marina. We had probably a half-mile dinghy ride to the marina. We'd dock it at the dinghy dock, and then we hop in our car and go to work. So just like anyone else goes to work, only just a little bit more work.
It's not an easy life, but this is the time to do it, man. When you're young, you're healthy, you can do all this kind of physical labor. This is the time to do it. Young love, you got this beautiful girlfriend. Do it now when you can, right? Now,
Yep.
Was this the first storm that you guys tried to make it through?
Yes. This is the first one, and the way they were calling it, they didn't they underplayed it, basically. Yeah. We paid very close attention to the news, and basically what we were hearing was it was going to be a bad rainstorm. So flooding, stuff like that. We had a vehicle we could have slept in, but we figured, hey, with flooding, we're probably better off on the thing that floats, not the thing that doesn't float. So, we stayed on the boat. It was our first hurricane. We're not going to give up, so there will be more hurricanes that we will endure. But it was our first one. It was not as pleasant as some would put it out to be, because it was very frightening. It was about 6 hours of the worst roller coaster ride you've ever been on, just getting thrown around. And there was probably several times that we thought to ourselves, yeah, we may not make it through this.
Yeah.
Kaylee said, hey, I think we should get the life jackets. And I'm like, yeah, I think you're right. Let's put on some life jackets. And then probably about an hour later is when we broke off the mooring ball, and yeah, the ride was intensified.
Yeah. Now, like I said too, this came unexpected. Like you said, there was going to be a big rainstorm, and I've been through some hurricanes down here, and without the sandbags, we wouldn't put the sandbags and stuff like that. But this time, the lagoon behind our condo down here was overflowing, and that has never happened before. It's like 3 feet before you get to the top of those railroad ties, and this time it was over.
Yep.
So whatever these weathermen were doing this time, they weren't quite on the ball.
Yeah, let's say they dropped the ball, for sure.
So what do you do to prepare for something like this?
Well, we, instead of anchoring, we decided that it would probably be best if we got on a mooring ball, which, if listeners don't know what that is, it's basically a big sunken piece of concrete. It's like a permanent anchor that you actually tie your boat to. So there's a big slab of concrete on the bottom of the seabed, and then it goes to a chain. And then it goes up to a floating buoy that has a eyelet on it. And basically we tie off our lines to that eyelet. So we had multiple lines out. We had some pretty heavy duty lines. We provisioned. We got food and water on the boat. We tried to make sure everything was prepped as best as it could. We pumped our bilge out before, so we knew we might take on some water, so let's go ahead and get any little bit of water that was in there out of that. So, yeah, that's pretty much all we could do to get ready. We did everything we should have done to make sure that it was there. One thing that I, looking back, would have done was made sure that the key to the boat motor was in a very secure spot, because when we broke off the mooring ball, the first thing I thought was, let's get the motor started so we can kind of control this a little bit better. Yeah. And the keys were AWOL. But with all the bucking and throwing around in the cabin of the boat, they were just AWOL. I couldn't find them anywhere. So, yeah, that's one thing I would have done. That must have been
terrifying.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because I only had a few minutes to really look for those keys before I had to switch gears and focus on something else. Getting an anchor out was my next thing. And I already had an anchor prepped and ready to go, so went up on the deck. About got thrown overboard a couple times just from the waves and the wind, and threw it out there. At this point, we had broken loose from the ball already. One of our lines had rubbed against something that we didn't expect it to, and it cut the line, and then it was too much weight for the other line to handle, so it broke pretty quickly after the other one broke. So, at that point, we could only throw an anchor out and hoped that it held. And it did hold for a couple minutes while I prepped another anchor. And then all of a sudden, it was too much weight for it to handle, and that rope snapped too. So then we were headed towards the beach. Yeah.
So then when did you have to abandon ship, or you rowed the sailboat into the beach?
We rowed it in as far as we could, because at this point our dinghy had flipped over upside down, and the motor on the dinghy was underwater for, several hours. And that actually broke off the boat when we broke off the ball. So we couldn't even get off the boat even if we wanted to at that point. So we rowed it in to where it pretty much ran aground, and we jumped off the boat at 10 o'clock at night, dark water, and basically swam the rest of the way, and stood on the seawall and watched our boat move closer and closer towards the seawall until it started smashing against it, and that was so heartbreaking.
Okay.
All that fiberglass damage, yeah.
And for people out there that are saying, okay, well, Kaylee Walker and Ian Wiley, they're young, they're inexperienced, but blah, 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 blah. Okay, all that kind of stuff. There were people who lived on those boats out there for years that also their boats went down. There's people that are missing still, I believe, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There were people who, full time. Yeah. They've been there 10 years, and they still ended up on the beach too. So it you're kind of at the mercy of the weather at that point. Like, you can do everything perfectly right and still end up on the seawall. So
about how many other boats went down?
19 were actually on the beach. I counted at least 4 of them that broke off the mooring balls. The rest of them were anchored, and they just drug anchor. Some of them were like us. Some of them hit the beach, and they're still in good condition. They just need to be pulled off the beach. Some of them are completely demolished or sunk like ours. We lost a really good friend out of the boating group who drug anchor, and he started taking on water, and he decided to basically put his dog in a life jacket on top of the deck while he went under and tried to bail out water. And it just got to a point where the water coming in was a lot of water coming in, and the pressure of it just kind of pushed him, and he couldn't get back out of the boat, and he drowned in the V berth of his boat. His dog made it, thankfully, but he did not. So
yeah, I saw that story. The dog lived, and then the sailor went down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now what happens, man? Now, okay, thank God you're on shore, but where do you go now?
Yeah, and a lot of people are like, well, why didn't he just get off the boat? Well, you're talking about someone's livelihood. People work really hard to make these their home, and he did not want to lose his home over it. So he tried his best to save his home. But yeah.
And you're talking about like how, because even if our dinghy had not ripped off the boat or flipped over, those waves got to a point like if you had gotten in that dinghy, you just would have been flipped right over. There was no possible way for anybody to get off their boats with how bad those waves. I mean, everybody was trapped out there.
Yeah, and there were several boats that. So we have a group chat, and we have a Bay SOS chat that's strictly for emergencies, and that SOS chat was going crazy the whole storm with people saying, hey, I'm taking on water, please help. Hey, my boat's dragging anchor, please come help. And no one was really willing to do anything because
too dangerous.
It was just too dangerous.
Yeah.
Even the Coast Guard, we radioed the Coast Guard, and they said, nope, we're not coming to help you. We can't. We're not risking it. And there was a guy who went from his boat to another boat to help it from dragging anchor, and his dinghy actually capsized, and he swam back to the boat that he went to go rescue, and he was trapped on the deck of that boat because the owners weren't around to give him the code. He was trapped on the deck of that boat for a good 12 hours without food, without water. We had to go rescue him the next morning after the storm off the deck because he was stuck there with nothing. So, yeah.
But now, after you make it to shore, you and Kaylee, where do you go now? Now you got no home. Where do you go now?
Yeah, we. So when we were riding the boat to the beach, we noticed there was a woman who was on the seawall, and she was literally out in the middle of the storm, and we're like, what are you doing out here? And she's like, I'm helping you guys. You guys need to get off the boat. She was the only one who was really out in the thick of it, trying to help people out. And Kaylee got a little nervous about getting in the water because it was just really rough and she didn't want to do it. Well, this woman swam out and basically pulled Kaylee off the boat. I was trying to take the nice approach, but
I was too scared.
She was too scared, and this woman basically said, get off the boat right now. I'm a really good swimmer. We will get you to shore. So at that point, we got to shore, and my first thought was, hey, I need to go back out there to get the important documents, the title, the registration, my keys. I need to get all that stuff. And I was met by an FWC officer who showed up, and he said, if you go on that boat, I will arrest you. And I said, well, I need to get my stuff. I'm sorry. This is very important stuff. So once he left, I went back out there. So long story short, the woman who was on the seawall that night, she said, hey, I have an Airbnb if you guys want to stay in it. Obviously, you're out of a home. Her name was Kelly. She is one of the nicest people we've ever met in the world. And honestly, we probably wouldn't have even made it off the boat if it wasn't for this lady. So, yes. And she had no skin in the game. She didn't live on a boat or nothing. She was just a concerned community member. So,
yeah, there are a lot of good people down here that are very hardy people. They've been through these storms year after year after year. And even if you're on land, and you're flooded and stuff like that, they'll come around and help each other and clean up the debris and things. Just incredible.
Yeah, we've met some of the best people in the world because of this, and we've met some of the worst people in the world. People who are like, just get your stupid boat off our beach. We don't want to be there. I would rather be out in the water. Like, I agree with you. I would love to get our boat off the beach.
Let's take this step at a time here. Okay, now Gilligan's Island, you two can barely make it back. Right? You know what I mean? Literally, it's like that, right? You're sitting on a like that opening scene where they're sitting on boxes around, Okay, so you're sitting around now. You got no boat, right? Well, I'm sure that there's all kind of government agencies and that come in to rescue Kaylee and Ian. Okay, you need our help. We're here for you, Ian. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no.
We have not seen them. If they are coming, we have not seen them one bit.
No one's coming to rescue the minnow.
No. They say the 9 scariest words are, "I'm from the government. I'm here to help."
Yeah. So then,
I don't hope.
Not only are there's nobody coming to rescue you, but then they're sending you bills and demanding that you get your debris off the seawall.
Yeah. Yes. We were out there the next morning cleaning the debris off. We're not a bunch of lazy people. We don't want to trash up the beaches. We were out there the next day trying to get boats off the beaches and cleaning up the debris that had accumulated from the storm. Even if it wasn't our debris, we were still cleaning it up. But we were getting shoulder checked by locals who didn't like us there. So it's just, it's very bizarre. But we've gotten no help from FEMA. They're not recognizing this area as having any sort of damage or anything. I'm assuming it's because not a lot of actual houses were damaged, just a lot of boats. So they're really not taking it seriously enough. We've tried to speak to congressmen and
which
governors. I think we have a couple letters out to Anna Paulina Luna.
Good luck with that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope I've seen a lot of stuff about her, and we're hoping that she comes through for us. But it doesn't matter who it really is. They seem to, Democrat or Republican, they seem to not care just as equally. So
yeah. So, have you actually filled out any forms with FEMA?
Yes.
Okay.
We tried to do it online first, and we got halfway through it, and for some reason it just wouldn't go through. And we tried to figure out what was going on, and we can only assume that it's because they're not taking applications from our specific zip code. So after that, I decided, you know what? I don't care if I sit on hold for FEMA for hours and hours and hours, which I was. So I called them and sat on hold for hours and hours and finally got someone, told her the whole story, and she seemed really sympathetic towards us. And she's like, I see that they're not taking applications from your area, but I'm going to go ahead and force this application through. I don't know what's going to become of it. I can't give you any guarantees it would be accepted or anything like that, but I will force it through. So I said, okay, absolutely. So we check on it every day. It's still pending. There's really not a lot of answers when it comes to that. We have talked to news sources about it, and one of their articles was, I think the title was "FEMA is forgetting about these people" or something like that.
FEMA's our only hope.
Yeah. It said FEMA's our only hope, and that was with the Fox 13 in Tampa. They did an article about us. So.
Gotcha. Now, what about? I know when you have a boat out there, you need liability insurance, but I guess you didn't have replacement insurance.
That's another topic that seems to be pretty popular on Facebook is our insurance situation. Hey, why don't you just be a good person and get insurance? Well, yeah, there's a few problems with that. So we did have $300,000 liability insurance that was required by the marina, which we were more than happy to do because we don't want to damage someone else's boat, and if we did, our insurance would pay for it. But when it comes to full coverage, so when we were looking for a boat, we picked our boat because of two things, the price and the age. And the price kind of reflected the age. The older the boat, the kind of more cost-effective they are. But my theory is the older the boat, the better it's built. And our goals are, or our goals were, and kind of still are, is to cross oceans. We want to travel the world. And the older the boat, the better it's built. So the newer boats that they pump out left and right, they're built using a chop gun, which is a fiberglass gun that basically chops the fiberglass into little pieces, and it mixes with the resin, and you spray in a mold. Well, our boat was built in 1979, and they did the hand-laid fiberglass fabric, which is 20 times stronger than any boat built nowadays. So we wanted an older boat because I knew it would be stronger and we could withstand a lot of these storms that we were going to encounter. But because it was older, insurance companies have a cutoff year that if it's older than this date, we won't insure it with full coverage. So we tried to have full coverage to where we could insure the boat completely, but it just wasn't possible. We talked to several different insurance companies, and they all said the same thing. No, we can only do liability for your boat. So that was our problem with insurance.
Now, what about the city of Gulfport? Do they have any kind of resources? Because everyone who lives down there, they're familiar with these storms and these flooding and the boating situation. This happens every year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we basically the only aid that they were offering financially was to go basically towards the removal of the boats.
Right.
So they came to me with a proposition. They said, hey, we got a program, and this was the Gulfport Police Department, I think the Marine Division. He said, basically, we have a program. You sign your title over to us. We dispose of the boat. No cost to you. You walk away. And I added in there with nothing, right? And he said, yep, pretty much with nothing. So if we did do that route, which we're backed into a corner. That's what we have to do. We can't afford, I think it was going to be $8,000 to $10,000 to get our boat towed off the beach. And that's not even counting the fact that it is not like floatable. It's not, with the holes that are in it from the damage, if they pulled it off the beach, it would immediately sink. So we would have had to temporarily fix it, which I don't even know if it would be possible since it's on the water. You would have to pull it out of the water to even fix it. But yeah, it would cost us $8,000 to $10,000 just to pull it off the beach if we did it out of our own pocket. So at that point, we have no other choice than to basically sign our title over of our home to the city so they can dispose of it. And that, once we sign our title over, we get if FEMA does decide to help us out, we have no proof that we even owned that boat to begin with. So they wouldn't even give us aid anyways. So we're really stuck between a rock and a hard place because our boat's not saleable. We can't afford to get off the beach. And then if we do walk away from it, then we get no aid from FEMA. So,
now, is anybody giving you advice? Or you're trying to figure this out on your own?
Kind of, somewhat. I mean, we are getting a lot of advice from other boaters, but it's kind of, you don't know if that advice is sound advice or not, because
different things being different told. There's so many different things.
Grapevine being told. I heard that the police are going to do this, and I heard the police aren't going to do this, and I don't know. It's just hard to really trust any advice that's been given to us. It seems like the police just want and we've asked them several times for advice, and they just want the boats off the beach, so they'll tell you whatever they feel will get you motivated to sign your boat over to them. It seems like they're very motivated to just, here, give us your title, we'll get it off. And So
basically telling us that there's no hope for any aid, so we might as well give up.
Yeah, pretty much, which is very discouraging.
Because like you've experienced, there are locals that are very angry people that are complaining to the police constantly, get these things out of here.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, they're really, really pressuring us basically to do things that we don't really want to do, but it's going to get down to a point where we're going to have to do something. So,
but it's not that we don't understand where people come, because it's a beautiful beach, and we're just upset. But people need to understand where we come from, because it's not like this was a sailboat we used just to sail throughout the day because we're bored. I mean, that was our home, and if we don't get FEMA aid, it's not just walking away with nothing, but it could put us in a spot where we'll be forced to go back to Kentucky, which would, like with the story I told in the beginning of all, my recovery stuff, coming down here was like a fresh start at life, like to kind of keep me motivated with recovery, get out of, that state that had so much, I guess, trauma and all those. So, going back to Kentucky, some people seem like, oh, that's not a big deal, but it really is. And without any aid from FEMA, it just puts us in a spot like we have nothing. Some people think that the GoFundMe we made is to get a new sailboat, which is not the case whatsoever. That GoFundMe was made to get us back on our feet after everything we lost, potentially pay for any hotels or Airbnbs we need. If we do have to go back to Kentucky, we might have the money to put on a down payment for the apartments we used to live in. And going back to Kentucky is the last resort. Like, we don't want that, which is why we're trying to fight so hard to get some type of aid, because we have nothing right now.
So you keep saying Kentucky because you sound like you're from Brooklyn. The GoFundMe too. Wait. The goal for the GoFundMe is only $5,000. You're not going to get a decent boat for $5,000. Okay, so that's where are you living now? Like, in a car?
Well, we never expected to use the GoFundMe to actually buy a new boat. That was just to ensure that in any like fines we get, we don't have to just literally go into debt over, or just to back up just in case.
There is a woman who is letting us, she posted on Facebook saying she used to be a liveaboard herself, and that she was willing to house either like a couple or one person who lost their boat. So I reached out to her a couple of days ago, actually, and she said, she's got a spare room, we can stay there for, a little while, just to kind of have some time to figure out our plan. It won't be a forever thing, but it's like temporarily we do have a place to stay. Yeah.
If it wasn't for the kindness of a lot of these community members, we would probably be back in our truck. So the first couple nights after the storm, Kelly let us stay in her Airbnb, and then we've just kind of been bouncing around to different people who have just put us up out of the kindness of their hearts. If it wasn't for that, we'd be in the truck. And I don't know if your listeners have ever been in Florida, South Florida in the summer. It is so hot in that vehicle.
No AC either.
No AC. When we lived in the truck before we got the boat livable, I mean, it put such a toll on our relationship. We were losing our sanity, waking up sweating, going to sleep sweating. I mean, it was miserable. So we don't want to have to do that again. So if we don't have a place to stay, then our only option is to go back to Kentucky, where it's a little cheaper. Well, not a little, a lot cheaper to live.
But there's not a lot of places in Florida where it's legal to live in your truck.
No.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, yeah, absolutely. Rest stops, Walmart, parking lot you can. Luckily, the place I work, they are super kind, and they let me park in their parking lot, or let us park in the parking lot overnight, and they even allowed us to run a drop cord to run a fan in the truck. So it was definitely we put up with a lot of stuff to get to live on a boat. And
when we said we sacrificed everything for that boat, like we really mean it. We sacrificed everything.
Yeah.
What did you pay for that boat? Because there's one picture. If you go to the Help Us Rebuild after Debby took our home, Unbridled Spirit, there's a picture of this boat, man, with a big rainbow in the background, man. It's a beautiful boat, you know. And then you see it right next with the poor thing in shovels.
Yeah.
We paid right around, I think it was maybe 6 or 7 for it.
Yeah. It was, the motor wasn't even running on that boat.
Yeah.
And that picture, by the way, on that GoFundMe, the one with the rainbow, that was taken less than 24 hours before we lost our boat.
Yeah. It was the beautiful right before the ugly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you drive around Florida, right? And there's so many people that have boats in their backyard, man. They've been sitting there for 10 years. There's so many boat companies, boat sales companies. Like, there's more boats than there's people down here. There's boats everywhere. Forget the boats that people are using. There's boat, stores where you sell boats everywhere. Yep. Now, no boat company has seen this as a perfect opportunity, hey, to help this young couple out. Hey, well, let's get my boat. No one's reached. I'll even give them free radio advertising. We'll plug their boat yard or whatever these things are called. What are they called? Boat yards?
Yeah. We don't even want to do. Just give us the scrap one laying behind the. We're not picky. We are not. But yeah, we have. We never really thought about that, but that would be very, very kind if someone did do that. Yeah.
Well, if you find, I'll put an ad. I'll give them an ad on the show. Free. Because there's like you said, man, there's a bunch of these bits everywhere, man.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want to be a charity case. We don't, but we are really struggling right now because we literally put every dime that we had into this boat. All of my savings and my whole paychecks every week went to just building this boat, and it seems like it's all for nothing because we won't have a boat and we won't have anything to show for it either. So, yeah, that's just the frustrating part of it.
Yeah, and right now things are up in the air. You guys are basically living in your truck. Got this Airbnb they're letting you use. You got no boat. FEMA's not helping out. The city of Gulfport's not helping out. What about the city of St. Pete? Did you reach out to them?
No, I don't think we actually have.
How does that work exactly? Gulfport is its own city, but St. Pete is a city next to it, or isn't Gulfport part of St. Pete?
Listen, we're from Kentucky. We think that they're as you are. I don't get it either. It's like a city within a city. Yeah. There's a bunch of that's within St. Pete, Kenneth City, Lealman. There's just Histon Heights. There's just a bunch of cities within a city. So
we're trying to figure it out ourselves.
Yeah, and Gulfport is just one of those cities inside the city.
Well, then, since you're from Kentucky, can you give us your chicken recipe? How's that?
I can't. It's a secret. It's
7 herbs and spices. Yeah,
Colonel Sanders' secret. We cannot tell. Yeah, but Gulfport is a really cool town, though. It's very artsy. It's a small community, and you can tell there's a lot of communication within the city, and it's just a really cool town with some pretty cool people.
Yeah, the motto is keep Gulfport weird. It's an old hippie town. It's a hippie beach town. You can't beat it, man. It's cool down here,
Artwork everywhere. There's sculptures. It's a really, really cool town. And, a lot of different ideas and perspectives are here. And, sometimes we don't agree with them, but we still get along with each other. So
it's despite some of the hatefulness we've received from people, the Gulfport community has probably up on. There's definitely more love than hate,
and not just for us, boating community. We've had restaurants that have catered 2 meals a day for the past 2 weeks since the storm. A barbecue place catered some food for us one day.
Clothes and shoes and toiletries.
There's been people all over Gulfport just showing up when we really need it. Not just helping us, but all of the boaters who have lost everything. Because you have to think we're not alone. There's several other people that we know that lost everything. They are the same as us. They lived on their boat. We actually were able to recover some of our valuable items out of it, but some of them were not. They just went down and haven't been able to get their flashes or pictures, or it's really tragic.
Yeah, it's not an easy life living on a boat. I've known some people. I've met them since I moved down here to Florida myself. I was from the desert. We didn't have many boats out there in the desert in Vegas, but maybe out on the lake. But even these people who live on these boats, their occupations are usually like tree trimmers and stuff like that. They're hardworking people, even when they're not living in a hard living situation.
Yep. Oh, you've got out in the bay. You've got people of all walks of life. You've got people who work online doing website building. You've got people one of our best friends, he works for a marine company who builds like marine cranes. So he gets up the same time as me every morning, and we pass each other on the dinghies on the way in. And so all walks of life. So.
Right. So, yeah. And they are all hardworking people. It's hard living on a boat. These aren't vagrants, like you said, or transient type of people, or
no.
Yeah.
But that kind of brings us to our point. A lot of people, when they see our boats, they assume that we're just people that live in our boats to get an easy way out of life. We don't want to work, but all of us have jobs. We pay our taxes. We go shopping. Like, we contribute to society just as much as anybody else does. I was cleaning houses, and Ian does glass, installing showers and windows, and his, my job is not as hard as what his was, for sure.
Yeah, there was many days I got home from work, and I'm like, I do not want to work on that boat, but I have to.
Yeah, and having the sailboats out there, it adds to the charm of the little beach town there. People who live on the boat, they got to go shopping and go to restaurants, and you want to get a drink, you go to Caddy's down there, right? Get those, what do they call those things? Those rum runners. And I love those rum runners. Yeah, that's out here in Florida. Well, you guys can't drink. You're only 18 years old, right?
Yeah.
What are you laughing at over there?
Yeah, even if I was of age, though, I have a non-drinking streak. Yeah, I am not touching it.
Yeah, she's never taken a drink of alcohol, and I swear she probably never will, because she is very hardcore not drinking.
Yeah.
Oh, so
another sailor stereotype that I have beaten.
Yeah. So they could find you on Facebook at Kaylee Walker, Kaylee Walker. And she's the one in the big, almost yellowish hat with the pink dress there. You can see her there. And they got a little picture of the marina there, I guess, right? The old beach area on their Facebook. Yep. And once again, the GoFundMe is Help Us Rebuild After Debby Took Our Home, Unbridled Spirit. Now, did you name the boat Unbridled Spirit?
Yes.
We it was unnamed when we got it. It did not have a name on the title. They say you're not supposed to change the name of a boat. But we never, it's bad luck, but we never knew the previous name. So we just thought really long and hard on a decent name, and we really like the Unbridled Spirit, because that's kind of our motto too, is we want to go out and live our life to the fullest and not be bridled by anything. And, but it's also the motto of our home state, Kentucky. So.
Well, here you have it, this young couple, young love, adventurous spirit. They go out on a limb and they take a chance, buy this crappy boat, man, pours his heart into it, man. Blood, sweat, and tears into this boat, okay? Like Easy Rider, you got this dream, this adventure. But you ran into some bad weather, And what would have happened to Easy Rider if they would have ran into bad weather, too, on their motorcycle trip? They might have lived, actually. Then I got shot again. But you haven't been shot yet, okay? You guys haven't gotten shot yet.
No.
What is the plan now? You still got these dreams. You're still young. You're still healthy. You're strong. What is the plan going forward?
Well, right now we're kind of in limbo. We're just kind of waiting around. I mean, we're still working and stuff, but we're just kind of waiting around until we get word that there is going to be aid, or there is absolutely going to be no aid. So if there's no aid, we either scrounge up enough money to redo this, buy another crappy boat and put in all the hard work, or we change directions and maybe do like a van life type of deal. We don't want to live in the traditional way. I've done that before. I've owned property before, and we never wanted to do the traditional route because I'm sure you know that even though you own this property, this house, it'll never truly be yours because if you don't pay your property taxes, it can be taken away from you. So, and with today's age, with the housing price and everything, we don't see ourselves living the traditional way. So we're either going to try to continue doing this in some way or maybe move to land where we could fix up a school bus or a transit van or something like that. So,
we are still alive from that accident that night. So I think the fact that we're still alive, it kind of gives us hope that, because we just want to explore the world. Yeah. We like to travel. We're curious people, very curious.
And why waste a little bit of time that we have here just doing the whole boring routine, 9 to 5, go to work, come home, watch TV, go to bed, go to work, come home, watch TV. I mean, I've done that, and I felt like I was wasting my life away.
When you were on the boat, did you have a TV?
No, we did not have a TV. Nope.
We did have a laptop, though, and we had a hotspot.
Yeah.
Okay.
We weren't completely off grid, but yeah.
Gotcha. So you can watch Netflix then, right? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Once again, okay, we're out of time, guys. Listen, anything I can do to help you in the future, so get back a hold of me. I'll do what I can. Kaylee Walker, Ian Wiley, help us rebuild after Debby took our home, the Unbridled Spirit, and that's on GoFundMe. That's one way you can help. How else could people help you?
If they could just share the GoFundMe around, even if they can't donate, just share it on Facebook to where as many people can see it as possible, and get the word out that kind of FEMA has kind of abandoned us at this point. So the more people we can kind of get speaking up about that, the better.
If you check the GoFundMe link that's pinned to my profile, if you check the comments, it's got all of the videos, pictures of our boat during and after the storm, and it's also got our where we ended up on the news on Fox News. That's posted in the comments too. So that link pinned to my profile pretty much has everything on there.
And also, too, if you go to the GoFundMe, there's a little story, too. There's a long story. It's not even a little story about the whole thing, how they worked on the boat, and complaining about the heat, no air conditioning, yeah.
Wrote that. She's a great writer. She really is.
And also, too, there are some we've had on the show before. Like I said, the Gulfport, the Gulf Coast Legal Organization and St. Pete Tenants Union. If any of you guys are out there listening, if you have some advice for our friends here, Kaylee and Ian, to help them get back on their feet here and get them back out on the water, I guess, hopefully is what they like. But we are out of time, guys. So if I can help you out in the future, just get a hold of me. We'll put you right back on the air, okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Good night.